कितने मिनट का है ये?
20-25
क्वेश्चन आंसर भी है?
सर आएंगे तो बोलूँगा
ठीक है।
सही सही बताइए।
ओ, Hi, good afternoon. I'm Dr. S Kanwar from Indraprastha Apollo Hospital. I represent the Department of Respiratory Medicine, Critical Care, and Sleep Medicine. And these days, we are heavily involved with COVID disease and management and containment of the COVID disease in our hospital. Today, we are going to talk about the vaccines. It's a hot subject, and especially with the announcement of vaccine from Russia 2 days ago, the the whole attention of the world has been on that. We'll talk about that too, but initially, let me just explain to you what vaccines are. Whether it's a virus or a bacteria, let's first of all talk about the immune system and why the vaccines actually come into the picture. How the body mounts the response against any bacteria or virus that attacks our body. The first thing that happens is the body sends it has cells in the body which are everywhere. They sense that a new invader has come into the body, into the system, which is not recognized as a part of the body. So this immune system or those cells, they recognize the invader as a foreigner, and they don't want that. They want to mount a response against that invader. And wherever there is the entry point is, whether it is through skin, through nose, through the respiratory tract, through eyes, wherever, the the cells of the immune system would rush there in like foot soldiers in lakhs of numbers, and they will try to attack the virus or the bacteria and contain the disease there itself. This is what is the body's immediate response. And this is also called the innate immunity, whereby the body takes the first action as a containment measure to limit the disease there and then. Sometimes the invader may be very powerful, and the viruses or bacteria may continue to multiply despite the containment measures by the body's defenses. Then, the whole immune system gets activated, and sometimes, rarely, it gets hyperactivated. This is called active immunity. Um, the vaccines basically are based on this thing only, that the the memory cells there in the body, they are memory cells which would also identify that this was the invader who came in and attacked us. And even when they kill that invader, eliminate that invader, they retain the memory against that invader. So that is what the vaccines are based on. So the world started making vaccines several hundred years ago, and smallpox is a classical example of a very successful vaccine. Smallpox, measles, mumps, all these have been, and influenza of late have been examples of successful vaccines. Some vaccines have a long-lasting effect, even lifelong effect, uh, and some of them can last just about a year. For example, influenza. So the vaccines are prepared. How the vaccines are prepared? The virus or the bacteria, which is the offender. For example, these days, COVID-19, this virus is broken down. We know that where the protein is, which is causing the problem, which is the antigen. So, for example, in COVID-19, it is spiked protein. If you're aware how it looks like, there have been pictures all over. It looks like a ball on which there are spikes of red things which, pictorially it has been shown like that. The spiked sort of proteins which look like a corona. That is why it is called coronaviruses. So that spike protein is something which is the antigen, and which we are targeting. So either that protein portion is partially segregated to generate an antigen which can be developed, which can be which can become a part of the vaccine, so that that antigenicity can be created in the lab, or can be genetically engineered, or can be there can be a recombinant process by which that part of the protein can be inoculated. First of all, before inoculation, can go into a large scale production, and then that part can be inoculated in the body, which will not, in a normal body, which will not cause disease. So it is ensured that whether you take the whole virus, it has to be inactivated, or you take a part of the virus, which is the protein, which is the antigen, that is, let's say, after creating a large production, that would be inoculated in normal human beings. When you inoculate that in the normal human beings, that generates a reaction in the body as if the virus has attacked. Now, the virus which normally would have attacked and caused the disease, this particular thing, which is given in the form of a vaccine, will generate a reaction from the body as if a foreigner has come. But it itself will not be able to cause the disease, but it will generate the interest and the reaction from the body, so that the body retains memory against this particular antigen. Now, you have stimulated the cells all over the body to retain the memory of this worrisome invader. And now, when the real invader comes, when the real disease attacks you, you already have activated your immune system, and they recognize that, oh, we know this guy. So they immediately come there for rescue. If you are not immunized, you haven't had a vaccine against a disease which is novel, for which the body doesn't have any memory, the cells would be taken by surprise. They will take time to fight the disease, and then create a memory, and then be able to kind of mount a response. It takes time. By that time, the disease has already caused a damage in the body. So that is the job of the vaccines, that you inoculate a small portion of the same thing which the virus is going to give you, but in inactivated form, or in the form of a small portion of that protein, which is the real antigen producer, and which can generate the interest in the normal human body, and they can create the memory cells against that virus, and then they can take care of the disease whenever it comes. See, vaccinations do not necessarily mean that the disease cannot attack you. It may still happen, but the disease will be milder. Either it will ward off the disease totally, or the disease will be much milder, because the reaction time from the body is so quick, and that it can limit the infection very easily. They have studied this phenomena in the primates, in the monkeys, and other lab animals also. That when they gave the vaccine to the animals, they generated immunity when they were exposed to the disease virus. The disease was still there. They could still see some signs, clinical signs in them. They could still see X-ray changes, but none of them died, and they remained fairly healthy as compared to the group which either perished or had a severe disease. So vaccines work like that. There are various ways that vaccines can be made. One is the standard old way of taking out the virus protein and injecting it into the normal volunteers or normal humans on large scale. That is the standard way which has gone on for centuries. There is another way where they are doing recombinant protein vaccination. Then there is now also a lot of interest in nucleic acid vaccines, which are the RNA vaccine and the DNA vaccine. Now, RNA DNA vaccines, they work on a little different principle. There you do not inject the protein. You do not inject the virus after inactivating it, nor do we take out the protein from the spike, let's say in the case of COVID-19, from the virus and inject that. We don't do that. But we study the envelope of the virus genetically and we give that map, we do the mapping, and that body is given that map through the RNA or the DNA vaccines. So now you're given a map to the body. Look, guys, this is our enemy. We are showing you the map. Look at it carefully. Now you have to generate your own proteins in the form of antibodies against this enemy which is going to come. We haven't shown you the enemy. So the enemy has not been physically shown in this case, but the enemy's structure, how the enemy looks like, how the enemy's chemical structure is, we are showing you this. So you please based on that, create your own response, create your own antibodies, protein antibodies, and create your own memory against that. That is what the RNA and DNA vaccines do. So once that thing is generated, then that is injected in the humans. Then those RNA proteins, they actually go into the cell and start to multiply. They become a part of the human cell protein multiplication, and they keep on multiplying and sort of generating a immune response or a memory response in a large number. So when the real enemy comes, you're already prepared. Your entire enemy is prepared to fight that infection. That is the job of the vaccines. There is also antibody vaccines, which they have been work which has gone on in corona vaccines. At the time of SARS, SARS disease happened in 2003 and was still rampant in 2004. It was a pandemic. Thereafter, they started making the vaccines against that, and this is from the same family. So they have had already a lot of experience against the corona group of vaccines after the SARS outbreak. So this is what has helped them to fast track the production of vaccines, because they know they have already worked against the corona vaccines. They already know how to handle that. What is the process of that? So they're already quite far away. Though the SARS vaccine was not successful, so that is why there are still question marks whether you will succeed, and that too by fast tracking a lot of processes in the making of the vaccine against COVID-19. So there are a lot of question marks, but then the work is fast tracked, and let's hope that one of these vaccines, whether it is RNA DNA vaccine or antibody vaccine, which is from the SARS group, or that is why SARS antibody have already been identified. So they are using that antibodies to prepare the SARS vaccine, or that it is from the virus itself, the whole virus inactivated, or it is the viral protein, as I explained. So all of them are in the process, by of more than 200 vaccination companies all over the world. But there are a few of them which are in advanced stage of production, and we have one from India. There are a few from India, but one is Covaxin, which is in collaboration with the ICMR, NIV Pune, and the Biotech. Biotech company is the one which is in the manufacturing thing of this Covaxin, that is called the Indian one. There is one from USA which is Moderna, which is also in phase 3 trials now. The human trials are phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. There are a few Chinese companies, the Sinovac, then there is another one from Wuhan, there is another one based in Beijing. They are then the most important one, I believe, is the one from Oxford, which is in advanced stage of production also. It's also in phase 3 trial, and it is also collaborating with India for trials of phase 3. And probably the process of the Oxford vaccine is considered to be more elaborate and something which WHO and the other agencies are pinning more hope on as compared to few other vaccines which are also in advanced stage of production. So several vaccines are the candidates, but when will they really be able to bring the vaccines for consumption of the population all over the world? Billions of them, hundreds of billions of them. So, how many? What is the population of the world? So the entire world has to be populated anyway. So India has 1.35 billion, and so probably 700 or 800 billion. So just imagine the enormity scale of the production, and then there should be equitable distribution also. It's not that the vaccine is produced and the developed world or the affording countries can lap up all the vaccines when they come, and the poorer countries they have to wait for years to get whatever is left over. That should not be the one. So there are a lot of various agencies who are working on that, and there have been lots of money that has been poured in, billions of dollars have been poured in. There is the $8 billion fund by the WHO. There is another fund which is $2 billion. So that is to fast track and to focus on the developmental process, the scientific process, so that there are no bottlenecks as far as the funding of the project is concerned. So everything is going on. Then came the surprise from Russia 2 days ago that we have already produced the vaccine, and in August we'll start giving that, and by September end we should have made large number of doses, and by October we'll be able to give 50 million doses. Now the issue with that vaccine is that I wouldn't be very gung-ho about that, and there is a lot of skepticism about that, rightly so, because they haven't gone through a proper phase 3 trial. Phase 3 trial in vaccines is the one which is, over a very large group of volunteers. For example, Moderna is, using 30,000 volunteers for their phase 3 trial, and they have so far recruited only 10,000. Although the Americans are they're going all out for some reason or the other. They want the vaccine to be available before the November US elections, and they are very keen that the Moderna or one of the vaccines in the US is ready with the production, and the Americans can be immunized. But again, out of 30,000 volunteers which are supposed to be injected in the trial of phase 3, they have been able to recruit only 10,000 so far, despite all the massive government efforts. So it's not easy. Normally the vaccines take decades, years and decades 5, 7 years is sort of the average time that a vaccine can be made. And a lot of vaccines have taken 23 years, 30 years, 20, 30 years to make. So, and here we are talking about months. So, how much can you fast track? How much can you cut corners? So, it is difficult. Now, phase 3 trial in the Russian vaccine has probably not been conducted at all. The only thing that they have to say is that they have tried the vaccine on 76 volunteers and it did not cause reaction or side effects. And so we are confident that it will work. And but then how have they seen the antibody response? How have they seen in a comparative trial? There should be two arms that should be able to see over time, when the disease is already there, when the disease itself can cause immunity, at that time to establish that this immunity was because of the vaccine, or it could have even come otherwise. It is not easy. Phase 3 trials are not easy. That's why they take years and years. So how can they come up with a result in 2 months? So that is why there's a lot of skepticism, and the WHO hasn't even recognized them as being in phase 3, and on what basis. So don't be gung-ho about that. We will see the emergence of a lot of other trials, but whether they'll be able to give us something by the end of the year or not, we don't know, because it's not just the efficacy of the vaccine. 3 things. One is how effective the vaccine is. Number 2, how long lasting the vaccine effect is. Number 3, does it produce any serious side effects? These are the 3 things which the trials have to establish and prove. The longevity of the efficacy may not be easy to determine in the beginning, but the other 2 things are very important: how effective the vaccine is and whether it causes any side effects. The third thing, how long lasting the effect is, actually would be known over time, even after the entire world has been vaccinated. So that is what I wanted to talk to you about the vaccines. If you have any questions to ask me, please go ahead. Any questions? Hello?
The license.
Any questions? All right. So if you have any questions, you can still probably send it to us. I'll be glad to reply. Thank you very much. Namaste. Thank you.
Some property.
No, thank you. Thank you.